Happy Friday, friends, or whenever you are seeing this video. It's Carrie Ella VSG, and I'm here to share my 10 things you don't know about me. I was tagged by Aubrey in Wonderland, who, if you're not already following her, you should be. She is so positive. I always love her intros. Aubrey, it makes me laugh. I don't know, there's just something about you. I just get such a kick out of you when your videos start, and y'all, she's just very positive. I think you would enjoy her videos. So if you're not already subscribing to Aubrey in Wonderland, you should do so. Anyway, so my 10 things about me. It's hard to think of anything because I don't really find myself very interesting, but I think that's all part of the fun, I guess. So anyway, I wrote my notes, some little notes to remind me of what I had chosen. Number 1, I am an Air Force brat. My dad was in the military for 24 years, and although I was raised a military kid, I was very lucky that I was raised in mostly a civilian way. And I say that because the first part of my childhood was spent on an Air Force base, but we were very lucky, and we only moved one time that I actually remember. We moved another time, but we lived for 7 years in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And then my dad received orders, and we moved 60 miles from the Canadian border there in Grand Forks to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, where I then spent 10 years growing up in Gulfport, Mississippi. And during that time, we did not live on base. My parents chose to buy a home in a neighboring town, so I had the best of both worlds. Grew up in a military family, attended lots of military events, but also didn't live on base. So that's a good thing. I realize that, especially now as I understand more about base living. To all those of you that do live on bases, thank you. When I say that, I just refer to, goodness knows as a teenager how much trouble I could have gotten my dad in just by speeding and things like that, which if you're not military, then you don't realize that military folks can get in trouble for things their families do. Anyway, number 2 kind of piggybacks on number 1, and I was born in Lajesfield Air Force Base, Terceira Island, Azores, Portugal. Yes, try to fit that in those little tiny lines when they ask you your place of birth. So because of that, being born in the Azores, my parents actually Portugal is a country that does actually recognize dual citizenship. And so my parents basically, I think I was 18 months old, they had to denounce my Portuguese citizenship so that I would not have to worry as I got older on being drafted into the Portuguese army. Whether that's true or not, it was what my mother's understanding was at the time in the 70s. So we have a picture somewhere of me sitting on the lap of a judge denouncing my citizenship. So my parents do say the funniest part about that is the judge asked who my parents were, and and if I wanted to live in the United States, which was obviously a formality because I was a toddler, but my mom just kept saying how nervous she was that I would answer incorrectly. So that's kind of family lore for us. Number 3 thing about me, I suck at math. Like, totally. I hate it. It is my arch enemy, or I should say my arch nemesis. Math is my nemesis. I don't like puzzles, and I don't like Legos. I don't like anything that has me trying to figure out patterns, how things go together. I hate it. And I just hate it. I blame it all on my 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Watson. It's all her fault. I do think that had I learned some of this Common Core that I know is very political and everybody has all sorts of opinions, but as I've watched my niece, what she's learning, I almost wonder if that wouldn't have helped me, because I couldn't just memorize things. I wanted to know why answers were what they were, and I was just told to memorize. So anyway, I hate math. 4, so I said what I hate, what I love dogs. I wish I had a dog. I did have a dog. And then I had a dog, and for a while I sort of had 2 dogs, which I know sounds really bizarre, but I had a dog, and then my best friend, who was my next door neighbor, we either lived together or were neighbors for a total of 14 years combined. I had a dog, she had a dog. our yards opened back and forth, so the dogs went back and forth between us. I even have a picture of my beloved sweet girl. This was my Moxie. Oh, try and tell me that's... Oh, now, try and tell me that's not one of the sweetest dogs you've ever seen. Loved, loved, loved my Moxie. She lived to be 13, so she was my baby. And lost her about a year ago. She passed away. So, yes, I miss her still every day, but that was something to share. So this one's kind of funny to me. Coffee. I have spent the last year trying to make myself like coffee. Why would someone do that? Because they serve coffee just about everywhere. Most of the time it's free. It wakes you up. It's better for you than soft drinks. So I made this decision that I was going to like coffee. So I worked on liking coffee. And I joke that I still don't like adult coffee because I make my own mochas basically by mixing 2 cups of coffee with a packet of hot chocolate. But hey, it works. And the caffeine, wonderful. But I spent the whole year making myself like coffee and created myself a dependence on coffee in the mornings. And guess what? Gotta give up coffee. So that wasn't one of my best decisions. 6. So I used to sing. When I was in high school, I was very involved in choir. I was in the group choir. I was in women's choir. I sang in a group which was called Madrigals, and that was where we sang like music from anywhere from the 15th to the 18th century. It was really fun. We got to dress up in costumes. That was fun too. Sang in sextet, which was 6 girls. And then when I was in my early 20s and I was in a small church, we had a contemporary music in our worship services, and I sang in that group. And in fact, somewhere out there, yes, I have a copy, I am on a CD. We recorded a live CD, which is still one of the coolest things ever. We did it live at church, and then we did go into the studio for a couple songs that had just not recorded well, and got to record in a studio, and that was so cool. I know I do miss that. I miss singing. Another fun thing, my family did lots of road trips as a kid, basically because my dad was an enlisted man and we did not have money. So whenever we did go somewhere, we always drove, and my parents tried to make that educational as much as they could. So, aside from Hawaii and Alaska, I've been to all the states except for Hawaii and Alaska, New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, Rhode Island. That's it. I have visited all the other states. Whether that means drove through them, but even with my parents, if we drove through it, we stopped somewhere to experience some part of that state. And I do have family in a lot of different parts of the country. So that's kind of neat, I guess, especially as I learn how many people haven't. It's funny that I haven't been to Alaska, but it's actually where my parents met. My mom's from California. My dad's from Iowa. He was stationed in Alaska, and my mom's brother-in-law was stationed in Alaska. And those two worked together, and my uncle invited him over for dinner. And the rest, as they say, is history. Number 8. Okay, so I'm a bit of a grammar Nazi, grammar police, whatever. Which is kind of funny coming from someone who lives in the South, I know, to some people. But my biggest pet peeves, I'm going to teach y'all something. For those of you who don't live in the South, there are a few words that I really need you to learn how to use. The word is praline. I know that you would like to believe that it is praline. You would even like to believe that you eat praline pecan ice cream. No, you don't. No. Praline and pecan are the proper ways to say those words. Also, there is a city in Alabama. Its name is Mobile. Not Mobile. No, it's Mobile. And also a great city known for Mardi Gras and jazz and great food is New Orleans. Not New Orleans. Please make it stop. Those are like my huge pet peeves. Which I also know is funny because I'm completely fine with using terms like all y'all and y'alls and fixin' to. Now, I realize fixin' to is not grammatically correct, and it's probably one of the only things that I do allow, maybe because I've said it most of my life. But again, please stop. If you learn nothing else from me today, I'm just going to beg you, please, stop with the praline. It's not a real thing. It's praline. I promise you. I promise you. And pecan. It's not. It's just not. It's pecan. Okay. Also, so the most precious person on the planet, her name is Harper. She's 7. She's my best friend's daughter. I don't have any children of my own, and my siblings, none of us are married or have kids. Harper is just, she's it. If you get to know me, you'll know that she's just it for me. I absolutely adore her, and she's a genius. Also, my last one, I have an irrational fear of supervolcanoes. Yeah, I really do. So this one time when I was really depressed, I was going through a really hard time. Somehow I ended up watching something on National Geographic about the fact that really there's a supervolcano under Yellowstone. And did y'all know that if that were to erupt, we would all die, like, fast? And I don't know why. I have this super irrational fear of this volcano going off at any time. As if there's anything I can do about it. And as if I don't know where I would go afterwards because, you know, whatever. But still, y'all, I mean, that's a huge volcano. It would, no matter where you live in the United States, it would affect you. And it would affect the whole world because the ash would be so much and would cover this just ridiculous amount of space. So there you go. I have an irrational fear of a supervolcano. So I feel like these were kind of boring, but those are my top 10. Or not top 10 because it wasn't a top 10 list. It was just 10 things you didn't know about me. So now you know a little bit more about me and how quirky I am. As far as tagging people, I don't know who's already done this, but I'm just going to tag 2 people that I have watched a couple of their videos. Chemistry Queen, I feel like you would be kind of fun to watch this. You're so fun. And Hinder to Thin. I'd like to see what you have to say and get to know you a little bit better. Anyone else, feel free to jump in. I think this was kind of fun, even though if I do feel like a bit of a dork, and I just said that grammatically incorrect, and it bothers me. And why does it bother me? What did we learn? I'm a grammar police. Anyway, hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for stopping by as always. Take care.